Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
What's going on YouTube? It's Filthy and we're back with another video. Today we're going to show you how to crush GR120 solo in 2 minutes flat, pretty much every rift. Fairly end-ish game setup, although there is definitely more juice that can go on this. So, maybe by the end of the season, if you really crush hard, you'll be able to do 125 in like 2 minutes. It certainly is a possibility. Before we do jump in though, guys, thumbs up always is appreciated, and we will be showing you the build that Diablo himself checks under the bed for before he goes to bed at night, because he's so absolutely shit scared of this monk because it absolutely wrecks. Right, this is Inna's. You might have seen it before, I presume you have. It's been a very popular build last season. The main things that we're getting out of the season theme are the reworked Soul Shards. Now, Dreg of Lies was crap, but they have changed it. What it does now is we deal 25% less damage as a character. That's not a problem. Our pets are going to deal the damage, and pets deal 50% increased damage. So obviously it's just straight up 50% buff to pets. Now the inner Mystic allies count as pets, which is obviously why we take the Enforcer. And that's just great because it's an extra 50% damage. Now, each Soul Shard, as you unlock it, will have one of 3 other properties on it. The one that you want is the one that we've got here, which is each time your pet hits an enemy, your damage is increased by 1% for 5 seconds, stacks up to 100 times. So you can have up to 100% extra damage. But when you do get up to 100 stacks, they basically go down to 0. You get a little buff icon to let you know where it is up to. There's not really much you can do in terms of manipulating or control, but it's absolutely fine. It's just extra damage. It's also great for the Rift Guardian because you just have to hit, you don't have to kill. So you can work yourself up to 100 stacks. But let's face it, the Rift Guardian's not going to survive 100 whacks from your Mystic allies anyway. Now the second Soul Shard, we're still going to use the Sliver of Terror. This always gives a cooldown increase of 25%, which is obviously the negative effect for it. But for every skill on cooldown, we get damage reduction, which is great because we make this build very tanky. And we also get 25% increased damage per skill on cooldown. Now we've got 1, 2, 3 skills on cooldown, which is just, plenty enough damage. Now, in terms of other Soul Shards, you can use the Sliver of Terror. Again, it's a 1 in 3 chance to get this property that we like here, which is attack speed and crit chance are increased by 7% for each skill on cooldown. So again, if you've got the 3 skills, it's extra 21% crit chance, extra 21% CDR. But the devastating Ring of Fire at killing 100 enemies is quite nice as well. It's very random as to where it goes. It's a decent sized AoE that will melt anything in it. At 120, it is dropping off a little bit. If you back the GRs down a little bit, it does seem to be melting things a bit faster. But it's still a perfectly good substitute. But I mean, at the end of the day, the attack speed, because pets just love attack speed, and the cooldown reduction is more damage because we do have crimsons on as well. For the helm, you can also use a Shard of Hatred. This basically gives us reduced damage whilst we have 3 or fewer enemies within 25 yards. But if we get more than 3 enemies in the same distance, we get 10% extra damage up to 100%. And again, you're looking probably for the secondary property of 150% increased damage rather than 10. So again, you're looking to get stuff, dense maps, lots more damage, which is going to be pretty cool. Now, in terms of unlocking them, the stats ideally that you want on your Dreg of Lies is you always get damage, you always get crit damage, you always get damage against elites, you always get life per hit, you always get thorns damage. But the second property down there, cold skills deal 50% more damage. This can go up to 75, so this is the worst possible roll. It is quite hard to get this because this cold roll here for 50% more damage, it could be any of the elements at all. So, it could be arcane, lightning, fire, poison, physical. It can be attack speed. It can also be, I want to say there's another one as well. But, basically there's about, I don't know what, 7 or 8 of these that it can be. It's a 1 in 3 chance to get the second like legendary effect you want on it, so to speak, and then you've got like a 1 in 7 or 8, 1 in 8 chance of getting the cold modifier. So you might have to rock with attack speed. You might just have to rock with an element that you're not using until you find a really good one. It's going to take a while. It's taken me a bit of time on PTR to find it, and always, guys, if it takes a bit of time on PTR in the game, it is going to take a long ass time to find, but it gives you a nice loot chase, and that is the kind of ideal. The Sliver of Terror, obviously the only real stat that is changeable on here other than the legendary property is that top one, the dexterity. Again, this could be all res, it could be vitality, it could just be a different main stat. So obviously you want dex because a monk benefits from dex. So I guess that covers the season theme and the shards. The inner set, obviously we've been through this a few times on the channel because it is just such a good build. But the 2-piece, we get a passive effect of Mystic Allies, and base effect of mantras increased by 100%. We don't actually bother to sticking a mantra on. Getting the rune isn't probably worth it. There are better utility skills to take, but we do get Mantra of Healing, Mantra of Retribution, Mantra of Conviction, and Mantra of Salvation. They are basically extra damage and extra toughness is the way really to look at it. Now the 4-piece, that's why we've got those all the time, because we do get the 4 mantras continually. We get 5% damage reduction for each Mystic Ally we have out, so again, super tanky. I think in the last 10 or 15 rifts we've done, I don't even think I procced the Followers Cheat Death at all, which does show how insanely tanky this is, because we do have squirts and it is GR120. We gain the passive abilities of 5 ruined Mystic Allies at all times on the 6-piece, and attacking enemies creates your chosen Mystic Ally that lasts for 15 seconds, up to 10 Mystic Allies, and the damage is increased by 3000% for each one. The classic items that go with this are the crudest boots. So Mystic Ally summons 2 allies that fight by your side, and they deal 200% increased damage, and they stay in their active forms longer. And the other one is the Binding of the Lesser Gods. Enemies hit by your Cyclone Strike take up to 200% increased damage for 5 seconds. We could ignore the fire bit because we are taking the water ally. Now, it is kind of nice. The Mystic Ally Water Ally will freeze stuff. The Cyclone Strike. It's very good from a defensive point of view because a lot of the screen is frozen, which is pretty good. We've got Lefebvre's Soliloquy on here, 50% damage reduction. We're clicking the Cyclone Strike pretty often, and that will help us take less damage. Obviously, this kind of offsets the squirts because when we do get hit and we do take damage, we get more damage taken, but we deal extra damage when we're not taking incoming damage. So it's just a flat damage increase across the rift. Obviously, sometimes it's up, sometimes it's not. If you get yourself a shield pylon, happy days, it's double damage for the duration of that. And if you just happen to get lucky with nice mobs that you can freeze quite a lot that don't really have ranged attacks, elementals, crap on the floor, you can get quite a lot of good value out of this. Enforcer Gem, obviously, for damage. This 90% damage reduction applies to the follower, which is great, so we can keep the follower alive without the cheat death token. We've got Focus and Restraint, so we're proccing one part with our Way of the 100 Fist Assimilation, which again gives us a little bit more damage, as we power that up. And then Cyclone Strike is the spender, cost of 50 spirit, so 1/2 here, 1/2 here, 50% damage increase on both. Bane of the Trapped, just anything that has got kind of close range potential, just flat more damage. Doesn't work on Juggernaut, so they will go down slower, but it is forever thus in this game. And then a Bane of the Powerful, 20% increased damage for 55 seconds after killing an elite pack. I haven't bothered to power this up. You can do if you want to make it last longer, but I just haven't had the time on PTR. Extra elite damage, which is cool. Damage reduction from elites, which is also cool. Element wise, obviously we want cold on the squirts, we want cold on the braces. I don't want to see anybody rocking a pair like this, which is the ancient version but with a much lower modifier of 175. You want to be rocking yourself a non-ancient pair with close to 200% if you can. Obviously if you can get an ancient pair with 200, so much the better. Crit chance on braces as well as cold. I would probably say double crit cold on squirts. I've just rolled this as damage and left it. Mystic ally damage on your chest for an extra 15%. Mystic ally damage on your shoulders again for another 15%. Quite hard to get these shoulders to roll well because you really want that 50% damage reduction. You want cooldown on here as well. I've basically picked attack speed on the weapon because it is multiplicative on the weapon. The pets again love it. It's great for the teleporting. You can get Mystic Ally damage up to 120%. So again, a pretty lowish roll on my weapon. I've gone for damage percent rather than cooldown, and obviously we get a bit of dex on that as well. We are also taking Captain Crimson's set, so we get cooldown and resource cost reduction on the 2-piece, and that is more damage and more toughness on the 3-piece. So cooldown reduction, is something you certainly could take on your gloves. I think your absolute quadfecta dream would be attack speed, double crit cooldown. Good luck getting those ancient, but hey, we may as well aim for it. Crit chance on the helm, I think 6% obviously would be nice. Boots just defensive stats. The Crimson's defensive stats. You need to find the plans for these, which you will get in bounties. Now, I have jacked attack speed on the rings and the gloves just so that we can speed up the teleport, but some cooldown, some double crit would be absolutely fine. Might even be slightly better. I just kind of like attack speed because I do like whizzing around the map pretty fast. The boots do have to go in the cube. You can get them in level 1 loot pool, so they're pretty easy to find, but it has to be this way around. And I do think this is better because I do like the Crimsons. Now for the weapon slot in the cube, I've done 2 different main builds for this. Ingium, which gives you 10 seconds off your skill cooldowns when you kill an elite. That allows you to infinite teleport to the next pack. And then the other one is the Furnace, because this gives an extra 50% elite damage. Elites do go down quite fast in this build. Again, it depends where you're up to with your stacks on the Dreg of Lies. If you're near the 100, they'll go down very fast. If you're starting near 0, it will take longer. Some elites have shielding. Some of them can take a bit more time to go down. So Furnace is a very acceptable option. What I would say when you're playing the map, if you've got the Furnace, then the cooldown pylon is the absolute god tier because it allows you to teleport, pretty much infinitely. And when you're playing Ingium, it's a little bit the reverse. The power pylon is the god one because obviously as you kill the elites, you teleport around and you just mash everything. I honestly couldn't tell much difference between the two. They were both coming out around about 2 minutes pretty much every time. Sometimes we were sneaking under 2 minutes. Sometimes we were doing 2:30. It just totally depends on the map, depends on how the pylons fall, and so on and so forth. You want to have all res gems in your chest, all res gems in your pants just to keep you tough and tanky. And I think that is probably everything covered in terms of gear. Looking at the skills, Cyclone Strike Implosion, it has the biggest area of effect. Obviously we want the Cyclone Strike for damage reduction and more damage output. Where the 100 Fist Assimilation we've covered. Mystic Ally, Water Ally we've covered. Obviously the nice freeze there. Epiphany Desert Shroud, 50% damage reduction, crowd control immunity. With the Ingium you do have more uptime on this because obviously you're knocking 10 seconds off the cooldown when you kill an elite. But it still works pretty fine with the Furnace. Serenity Ascension, this is just godly, complete damage block for 4 seconds. Again, with Ingium, you can get this back fairly fast. You can time this so that you can jump into explosions, collect your progress orbs. You can just simply mash it quite a lot of the time because obviously, again, the way the Soul Shards are working, more stuff on cooldown is generally helping out with damage. For the teleport dashing strike, there are a couple of choices here. I like playing with Quicksilver for the 3 charges because it just means that I can teleport a little bit more frequently, particularly at the start of the map. But the dodge chance one here, blinding speed, 40% dodge chance would give you a bit more uptime on your squirts when it goes off. Obviously it's totally random, 40% dodge chance, so you can kind of choose. Ingium I think is probably better suited to blinding speed because you're relying a bit more on Quicksilver without the Ingium, but again, that's something you can play around with yourself. Passives wise, Unity. Each ally affected by mantras increase damage by 5% up to 20% more damage. Nice. Seize initiative, attack speed buff here. So dealing damage to enemies above 75% life gives us 30% attack speed for 4 seconds. Momentum, when we move 25 yards, we get 20% damage increase for 6 seconds. And then Beacon of Etor, more cooldown, more access to skills, and more damage. The follower, we're using the gain access to all skills. She will take damage, but she won't die because 90% damage reduction is just huge. You want to get her intelligence up to 25,000. Obviously, I've cheated and got a load of primal stuff, but I haven't bothered giving her a torso. Now, you obviously want the Flavour of Time, 100% essential. It makes your pylons last twice as long. Nemesis, 100% essential because you're giving yourself extra elites to kill, which is great. Other than that, I don't think there's terribly much. A Spaulders of Zakara for GR speeds is great because it means you're not having to repair your stuff. Crimson's I don't think works. Kane's extra keys, obviously not great for GRs, but you know, if you can't be bothered swapping back and forth between a key build and a GR build, then by all means you can do. We have got Avarice Band, again that's for T16, but essential. Oculus, just give for the highest damage that you can, 85%. You can hop into your Oculus circles, but it's not like the greatest build in the world for that, but you certainly can do it. We get access to all of the skills, so we get basically the cooldown, we get the damage, we get the elemental damage, and it is worth quite a bit, this, I think. You know, the cooldown I just kind of like, but by all means the Scoundrel would be another good shout because he's got some pretty decent abilities as well, so extra damage here could be, and it would be easier to mix the decks for the Scoundrel, but I just I don't know, I like the Enchantress, so there we are. We obviously get the cheat death from the follower as well, which is why we don't have it in the passives. And yeah, this build absolutely rocks. It's going to smash everything next season. Now, the only tip I've got in terms of playing it is the Mystic Allies are a bit funky. They are a bit funny. When you do first go in, just before you're about to engage the first enemy, hit Serenity. That'll give you 4 seconds of immunity. It'll keep your squirts up. You need to attack with something to start generating the Mystic Allies. Then you can press Mystic Ally, because obviously they do much more damage in their active form. And then you want to not press this. I'm quite bad at this. I'm a button masher, but you want to kind of not press this until you see that like most of the allies are back in this kind of human form, and then you pop the button and they turn into the waves. Now, sometimes there is a few weird things that seem to happen. Sometimes they pop out of their wave form, and I can't really think as to why it is that you're doing it. Again, with in-game, getting 10 seconds off this as a cooldown is kind of nice, but you know, I think it's a total toss-up between the Furnace or the in-game. I think either is fine. A slightly other acceptable choice would be Reaver, but honestly, I probably wouldn't do that just because it's a bit random. I do like in-game and Furnace. I think my favourite is probably in-game, but horses for courses. It depends how quickly you want to put the elites down. Right, that is the guide. Would I start this over Demon Hunter? That's a pretty tough call. We're gonna have a little test of Demon Hunter and see how near we can get to this. But honestly, solo, if you're just wanting to grind Paragon, gem levels, all that kind of stuff, this is definitely going to be top tier next season. That's the video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've been the Filthy Casual. I'll see you again real soon for some more build guides. Take it easy. Peace.
Some days there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Some days I'm not myself. There's no one I can turn to. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last.